Hello everyone, welcome to Back Tactics. It's Sorcerer time. I really liked the previous Sorcerer, and now that, we got another new Sorcerer with new features. And Daniel's here, by the way.
Hey, let's start off with spellcasting changes, I think.
Back to class spell lists. I'm overall fine with it, because, I'm familiar with it. I did get used to the other version, but whatever.
I'm fine with either class or shared spell lists. The issue right now with class spell lists is that sorcerers are once again quite far behind compared to wizards with their amazing spells. Spells like Wall of Force and stuff will not be on the sorcerer spell list again.
That is a good point. I do think sorcerers should just get the wizard spell list. They should just be a shared spell list. Don't you?
Rather than shared, maybe at least some of the outstanding ones could be shared.
Because they're still very unique from each other, even with a shared spell list.
That's true. But if it would be only two classes where there's a shared spell list, maybe it would be a bit odd.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm fine with either option. Just right now, sorcerers, again, lost a lot of good options, which is a bit sad.
This is a nerfed version.
They did get two new spells, Sorcerer's Burst and Arcane Eruption. I think you talked about both of those spells last time around. Arcane Eruption was made a little bit stronger. It's now a dex save rather than a con save. I think that's better.
Yeah, that's better. Con saves, monsters are usually really bulky compared to fast.
The Arcane Eruption is still quite strong. I'm happy to see that as an addition to the Sorcerer spell list, so just their niche. The Sorcerer's Burst, however, last time around, it was really terrible. If you guys remember, it's a spell where you have exploding dice. That means you reroll if you roll the max number, at least in this context. Last time it did worse damage than Ray of Frost, and it is a damage-only spell. This time around, I did some simulations to get new numbers, and while they improved it slightly because it went from a D6 to a D8. It still does worse damage than Firebolt, and Firebolt is just a lot more versatile because it also can destroy objects.
You got some interesting results from it too, by the way.
Yeah, the interesting part about Sorcerer's Burst is that usually we only really care about averages because that gives a clear enough picture over time. If you really want to go into depth, you care about more than that, but it's usually not necessary because the differences are so big. With Sorcerer's Burst, the interesting part here is that there's a limitation to how often the dice can explode. You can roll at most up to your spellcasting modifier extra dice. The interesting thing is if you increase this limit beyond like 5, for my math, I just assumed spellcasting modifier 5 because trying to be as nice as possible to the spell, and even then it's pretty bad. If you increase that number, the average barely changes because there's such a small chance that you actually roll additional dice. The maximum increases, but the average barely is affected by this fact.
I'll definitely just be casting Firebolt like a normal person,
Yeah, honestly, it would be fine if this was a D10 as well. Like, if it's Sorcerer only, who cares if they do some more damage with their cantrips?
The exploding dice does sound like a really fun concept, It's kind of like Vicious Mockery kind of fun, but, it suffers the same problem with Vicious Mockery. They're just not good. They're not good cantrips.
If you've played Burning Wheel, you are used to exploding dice. I think it's a cool system, just they don't really make it very worthwhile to cast. The only niche here is that you can choose the damage type. So if you're fighting against like a devil and they're resistant or immune to fire, okay, then choose some other type like Psychic. Next up, I guess, is Innate Sorcery, a new sorcerer feature from the base class. Yeah, I like it, I think. It's interesting.
This is like a rage version, but for sorcerer.
It's similar. Bonus action effect improves your class, lasts for a bit. Yeah, I can see that. Well, it's like the druid's wild shape, the barbarian's rage. It's transformation for the sorcerer.
And I'm kind of happy that it does attack rolls, even though they're not really good at attack rolls. But it does boost spells like Scorching Ray and Firebolt and stuff like that. So it's a lot more interesting. It's not like, how would I describe it? We were just talking about Wizard before, and there's a lot of similarities with sorcerers and wizards when it comes to spell picks and stuff like that. Here, you're looking at it from a different angle, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, there is some differentiation between the two classes. Often in the tabletop builds Discord, people ask, why should I play a sorcerer if I can play a wizard? And really, there aren't that many reasons to. I think this is a small feature, but I like it.
I've never played a straight sorcerer ever. Have you?
No, I've not. Though I am playing a paladin with a lot of sorcerer levels. So
Sorcerer is like my least played full caster in the game.
speaking of which, though, the differentiation between wizards and sorcerers. A big complaint in 5e was that sorcerers did not get enough prepared spells. At the end of the release cycle of 5e, we've gotten Clockwork Soul and Aberrant Mind. They had their own subclass spells that you got for free. This sorcerer just gets bonus to their prepared spells. They end with 22 prepared. I think normal sorcerer, or 5e sorcerer rather, gets 15. Yes, 15.
Yes.
Do you like that?
I love it. More spells is good.
Yeah, I do agree. The sorcerers weren't really bad in 5e at all, even with their low amount of preps, but extra preps does increase their versatility. And versatility by itself doesn't have to be strong, but if you have good options, then versatility is good. Maybe a bit of a tangent, but if you give one D&D monk gets to pick between doing 1 damage or having a 1 out of 100 chance to prone someone and a 1 out of 1000 chance to stun someone, then they would be versatile, sure, but it wouldn't be good, right? Just hypothetical there.
Yeah.
Sorcerers get good spells, so versatility is strong. But speaking of those two subclasses, apparently Wizards of the Coast are gonna bring those into the 2000 and the new PHP, the ones I just talked about.
Yeah, whatever.
Aberrant Mind and Clockwork Soul.
Whatever the new book is called, I don't know anymore.
Yeah.
I'm still calling it 1D&D, even though it's not 1D&D anymore.
Yeah, they don't really call it that, sure. But what do you think about that? Do you think those two are going to be too strong compared to the ones they show in this one? I think they'll be way too strong compared to the ones they've shown.
Yeah, that they will most likely be stronger, but I'm also speculating they might just like nerf it to the ground.
In the video, they said they didn't have any significant changes in mind.
Oh, I don't know. That they might change their mind about that.
Maybe. We'll talk about the subclasses soon. Maybe we can compare afterwards what we think. Next change, Font of Magic. When converting spell slots into sorcery points, you no longer need to spend a bonus action. Pretty small change. Nice quality of life.
Yes. Are we going to do meta magic now?
Yeah, I think meta magic is likely the biggest change to Sorcerer. Well, maybe not since the last playtest, but compared to the 5e version.
I really enjoyed the meta magic in the previous playtest. It was really good.
They did change twin spell. That is the biggest change.
And now they brought it back, but now it's worded different. Yeah, it's different. And I don't like the examples they put up here because, like, both examples, what was it, Charm Person and Hold Person? Somebody's going to interpret that as, oh, I can only cast enchantment spells.
I think that's a bit too low of an expectation of people, probably.
I mean, I'm a YouTuber, and I've seen all sorts of weird comments.
Fair enough. The 5e version allows you to basically duplicate a spell's effects to another target. There were some more specific rules there, but for example, haste, it's probably the most well-known one. You could target 2 people instead of 1. Definitely not the best option you could have, but that's a very well-known one. It's also widely used in Baldur's Gate, where it's actually good. It's fun.
I've gotten a lot of comments about that haste video and Baldur's Gate people coming in and they're like, no, haste is really good. And I'm like, yes, haste is really good in that game, but I'm talking about 5th edition. But the
first iteration was too powerful. The second iteration wasn't liked, and now they've gone back closer to the original version. However, you can not use it on spells that cannot target multiple creatures. That's the summary. It works a bit different, but for example, Banishment, it casts at 4th level, it can be used on 1 person, and if you upcast it, it can target 2. If you cast it and then spend 1 sorcery point, you can increase the spell's effective level by 1. That's how it works now. You basically increase the spell's effective level. Let's maybe talk about some of the spells that would still be able to be used are Tasha's Mind Whip, Banishment, Fly. That's the big ones I can think of. So things like Polymorph and Haste, not really a good option. Nevertheless, it's gone. Its effectiveness has definitely been reduced. You think it's too weak?
Since it's knocked out Polymorph, I think that's a significant nerf. There was Phantasmal Force. That's the only 2 that I really cared about.
Yeah, those were some pretty big ones. Tasha's Mind Whip is a good option.
But
of course, it also interacts with multi-classes, so if you somehow got other spells those would be affected. I've only talked about sorcerer spells for now, though. I think I've heard people say that they were planning on changing spells, some spells, to be able to target multiple creatures when you upcast it. I'm not sure if that is just hearsay or if that was actually said somewhere. I can't find it in the document. If they do that, then it's probably fine. Like Phantasmal Force allow us to upcast that too, maybe? Polymorph, maybe?
I wish we had all the spells in the game so we can judge this properly instead of speculate. I think the speculation part is so annoying.
Yeah, I agree.
It is awful. We're 7 playtests in and we don't have them. It should have been in playtest number 2, in my opinion, but whatever.
Either way, I quite like the changes to Metamagic in general, and I do agree with them saying the Twin Spell was overtuned compared to other options. If they change more spells to interact with Twin Spell, the one they have written down now, I'm fine with it.
Let's go back to the other features.
Sorcerer's Vitality is gone.
If I remember right, I rated it
Just
back.
regaining hit points. It was like regaining hit points and lesser restoration, basically. As a 3rd level spell, it wasn't fantastic. Sorcerer's Restoration, previously pretty close to the capstone, allowed sorcerers to regain some of their sorcery points. It's now at level 5. It still caps out on the same number of sorcery points, I believe. However, it starts off with just 1 because it's sorcerer level divided by 5, and you get it at level 5.
I think it's fantastic. Next.
Sorcery Incarnate moved from level 9 to level 7, and it instead improves innate sorcery. You can use 2 of your Metamagic options on each spell you cast instead of 1 while the effect is active. You can use the feature twice per long rest, by the way, innate sorcery. Sorcery Incarnate also allows you to use 2 sorcery points to gain back another use of sorcery, innate sorcery. Wording again is a bit weird here because it says you can spend 2 sorcery points when you take the bonus action to activate innate sorcery if you have no uses left of it. But can you activate it if you have no uses left? Just reading it in a sane way, yeah, sure you can, but it's a bit weird.
They should probably clear that up then.
They should probably say you can spend 2 sorcery points to activate innate sorcery as a bonus action. Something along those lines. I like Sorcery Incarnate.
Subtle Spell will be the most common one.
Will definitely be like, you use that with something else.
Yeah, and, well, that's... Subtle Spell will be the most common one if they don't remove Counterspell.
Even then, maybe it will still remain the most common. I'm not sure.
The Capstone. Now I think this is just a whatever capstone.
It's actually kind of similar to Sorcery Incarnate, because you'll probably just use Subtle on everything, right?
Yeah.
I think it's cool, but not that impactful to the game.
They could have kept the wish thing in there, but they should have removed the
no consequences to casting wish for other purposes than replicating a spell.
Yeah,
remove that and it would have been fine.
Yeah, then we wouldn't have a problem.
Actually forgot about heightened spell before. That seems like a good option to combine it with other sorcery meta magics, because it gives disadvantage to the target. And if you can do that for free on any spell you cast, I mean, that's just a big gain.
Oh, you got a good point there.
It may be a bit expensive during Sorcery Incarnate, but otherwise...
Yeah, I still stand by this level 20 thing. This needs to change.
Level 20, they never make them strong enough, I think.
No.
At least almost never.
No, they just don't know what to do with the capstones.
We talked about Draconic Warlock, sadly not in, but we have Draconic Sorcery again.
Yes, the scaly subclass.
The scaly subclass, indeed. Your fans will probably be big fans of this one.
Yes.
Last time, I'm just going to start with the elephant in the room. The last time around, they nerfed Draconic Wings, or Dragon Wings, so that you didn't have your wings out all the time. That sucked. You can get wings at level 1 and 5, and that's overpowered. But being able to get wings at level 14, it's not that bad there anymore. They reverted that. You can keep them out. I like that.
What was it? Genie Warlock can fly at level 6?
Yeah, but not at will.
No.
That, I think, uses resources.
No, it's not at will, but it's 10 minutes, and that's plenty of time. So I still wish the Draconic Wings came earlier.
Oh, I'm fine with the level myself.
14?
Well, flight forever, has its benefits. You also don't have true polymorph yet at this level, so it's not like a given that you can just fly.
I still think this is weak compared to everyone else's 14th level feature.
Maybe.
Right now, what I'm thinking of is like wizard stuff, like illusory reality and what else.
That should probably not be the thing you compare things to.
No, maybe not, but still though, it's still comparable. And then, the wizard has simulacrum at level 14. Sure, that's not a feature, that's a spell, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Either way, I'm happy with the revert on that one. Last changes to the capstone here. It's similar to 5e, but it's no longer concentration, and in return, they can just walk out of the effect. So there's a 60 feet area where it's either frightened or charmed, though the condition just ends until they're outside the aura. And that's a pretty decent distance, but it's a really easy way to lose the effect.
Yeah, I don't think this feature is good for its level either. I'm pretty sure I said this last time too, like, this is dragons, and there's no breath weapon. Why don't we have a breath weapon?
Well, the monkey paw will curl and they'll give them a dragonborn dragon breath, and it's not going to be usable.
Oh, that's true. They just refuse to make these breath weapons like a bonus action or something that's powerful. They
added Rhyme's Binding Ice, which is like a good spell, but then anytime they give Dragon's Breath away, it's bad.
Even Larian refused to do it. And I'm like, what? Why?
Yeah, maybe they could do something at an earlier level and give them more dragon features. It's a bit weird that there's no Dragon's Breath. The final subclass for Sorcerer is Wild Magic Sorcery. It has the same Wild Magic Search table as in 5e, though it has received quite some changes.
Daniel, I haven't read that Sorcerer in probably like 7 years.
In my top 3 least favorite spellcaster subclasses. Let's say that. I mean, there are worse ones, though there are some where I had higher hopes than what was delivered. I think they improved a lot of what I disliked. I personally am not a big fan of the randomness involved with the Wild Magic Search table, though I can accept it. The thing I really, really disliked was the DM fiat that was part of this subclass. They basically removed that entirely.
Yeah, that's the best improvement so far, in my opinion.
Wild Magic Sorcery is actually a decent subclass because of Tides of Chaos and Bent Luck. Those 2 features are just quite good. It's pretty close to being fine to play. I think one change they should make for Tides of Chaos, it right now allows you to regain your Tides of Chaos feature when you cast a Sorcerer spell with a spell slot. The thing is, it forces you to regain the feature by rolling on the Wild Magic Search table. I think this should still be an opt-in. Like, people can like the Magic Search table, but this is a bit too direct, I think. There should be you can and then roll on the Wild Magic Search table, Right now it's if you've used Tides of Chaos, the next time you cast a leveled spell, Wild Magic Search will proc.
The table itself wasn't that good either.
There were some outliers that were either really bad or really good, but overall it's like you turn blue and it wasn't that insane.
Every person who I know who have played this has had their own like custom table. They never use the default table. And I've played with 2 of these sorcerers, by the way, and they were very memey. I mean, fair, that's kind of the point. But their biggest complaint wasn't the DM stuff. It was the table. So they asked their DM, hey, can we make our own tables? And they, of course, all of them said absolutely. So it is kind of weird to see that there's no table here.
They said they were fine with the table. I think they were just going to do the same one.
Oh, well, okay.
The biggest thing here is for me, I think the regaining of Tides of Chaos should be optional. There are moments where like you've used Tides of Chaos and then maybe you use a spell that's really important and it's like, okay, no, I don't want the randomness to happen here. And some may say, well, the point of the subclass is the randomness, but I think it should still be limited. The Wild Magic Search itself does allow you to choose. So the final changes are to Wild Bombardment, formerly called Spell Bombardment. I think it's definitely better than what it used to be. It now allows you to cast a sorcerer spell without a spell slot and create an effect from the Wild Magic Search table that you choose, but it can only be a effect that casts a spell or restores all of your expanded sorcery points, so it's a bit limited there. But you can only do this once per 1d4 long rest. I really dislike the features where it's like half a week of downtime.
I have like a big bias against this subclass in general. I just do not like this subclass. So
I think recently we saw the 1d4 long rests in the cleric QA.
yes, it was there.
And we've also seen it in the undead warlock. Well, we've seen it more often.
Genie Warlock has it too, I believe.
More randomness. Whoa, that's fun. I don't know. I think being able to do this every day is really not that much more powerful than being able to do it 1d4, 1 out of 1d4 days. And this also just affects some tables more than others. And I never really like that too much, because at some tables you have easy downtime to combat. You know, you have one combat, okay, then you take 3 long rests, and then next combat you have it again. At some tables, you know, it's just days after days after days of combat, and at those tables you see it 25% of the time, and at other tables you see it 100% of the time. I don't like that.
You were talking about the other sorcerers, like Aberration and the other one, and those two are absolutely gonna overshadow this one. And
yeah, the problem here for me is they added the subclass spell list to those classes, subclasses, because they tried to fix Sorcerer, right? That was, I think, the idea there. And they said they weren't going to make significant changes to the subclasses. And then I'm left wondering, why are these barely buffed? Why do they not have subclass spells? Imagine if the Draconic Sorcerer got Rhymes Binding Ice. Wouldn't that be cool?
that would be really cool.
And then, you know, the Wild Magic Sorcery thing could get spells that are a bit random low, you know? Some good ones too, hopefully. If they are going to keep the Sorcerer subclass spells for those 2 subclasses, every one of them should have it, because it's weird to me to give it to some but not to others.
Okay, so conclusion.
I think they could go more wild, add more power to the subclasses themselves.
Yeah,
especially if you're going to bring back Clockwork Soul and Aberrant Mind.
It's less interesting than the Warlock one. Like, the Warlock one was way more interesting, but it was nothing like special like what we saw with Bard. And the subclasses are still too weak.
Yeah, I agree, and I don't want people thinking, oh, on the one hand they're like marshals underpowered, casters overpowered, and then we're saying buff the subclasses. Like, I'm not saying give them Wall of Force at level 1, you know? It doesn't have to be overpowering here, but sometimes it's just a bit too weak sauce, and at that point you're like, okay, what is my subclass actually doing for me?
And really the reason why you're picking Sorcerer is because of the special relationship you have with the subclasses, you know, Draconic Sorcerer, you're related to dragons.
Yeah, your origin is very important for a Sorcerer.
Seeing them weaker than well, I mean, then again, you only get like 4 features per subclass. But still, though, I still think they should have more oomph.
I think the Sorcerer is a lot more fun than 5e. I think it's less overpowered than the previous iteration. Maybe they can look at the Twinned Metamagic a little bit more by changing some spells around, buff the subclasses a little bit. Otherwise, improvements, I think.
Yes, I would definitely play... I mean, would I? I haven't even played the original, so...
You would choose this one over the original.
Yes.
Let's say that.
That I would. Anyways.
Guess that's it.
Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.